Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
Office Bloke Mike.
Office Bloke Daz.
Collectively, we are the Office Blokes.
Yes, we are.
True factual statement coming in on our day off.
New shirt, Dave, for Christmas.
No? Had it about 6 months, I think.
Not seeing the Office Blokes logo on it. I can't see it from here.
Wearing a hat to make up for it today. There you go.
Has to be something.
Yeah, so we are the Office Blokes, and we've come in. This is ultimate dedication when,
Everyone else is off.
Over the Christmas period. It's empty. Roads are empty.
Yeah.
No one around. And we wanted to watch some videos about Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Why not?
What happened?
Just went out of business, didn't they?
It's going to be a short video, this.
Yeah. I worked at I sort of did work experience at a voiceover studio years ago, and the guy that I was shadowing did the voiceover for the Toys R Us adverts.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a bit of a weird guy, but then his voice was different, and then he'd go into the Toys R Us voice, and it's literally the iconic, all of the TV adverts.
What sort of voice was it?
It was a really cheesy, like, I can't even do an impression of it, but like a really, it's very hard to say. We'd have to watch it, but it's like a very like broad, sort of confident, almost like a corporate video sort of voice.
Yeah.
But then he was just like quite a weird, normal, soft-spoken guy the rest of the time.
We had shares in Toys R Us.
Did you?
Yeah. Not anymore.
Is that what went wrong? Are they not
Bit
still
of success if they had me on the board.
Yeah.
Still be going.
Are they not still online?
I've not seen Toys R Us for a long, long time.
I have no idea.
I guess we'll find out then. The decline of Toys R Us from Company Man. What happened? Let's do it.
The big news story of the week in the business world is that Toys R Us has filed for bankruptcy. I've been getting quite a few requests to make a video about it, and I completely agree. This is a terrific subject to talk about. So I dropped everything I was doing and dove right into it. Keep in mind that this video is being made the same week as the announcement, and it's sometimes hard to see the full picture from such a close distance. So don't be too harsh if you're watching this sometime in the future and I say something that sounds a little foolish. So what's going on with Toys R Us? If you're like me, you had no idea they were in any kind of trouble and were shocked by the news. And I'm guessing your next thought was a quick judgment that it must be a result of the internet taking sales away from the store locations. I would even bet you clicked on this video anticipating to hear that. And I don't necessarily disagree with that conclusion, but I guarantee that what's happening with Toys R Us right now runs much deeper than losing sales to Amazon. In 1948, a man named Charles Lazarus opened a baby furniture store called Children's Bargain Town. The company started selling toys, and the demand for them grew. Mr. Lazarus, being an astute businessman, noticed that furniture is pretty sturdy and long-lasting. But toys tend to be the exact opposite. The focus of the business soon became toys, and in 1957, Toys R Us was born. Anyone know where the name Toys R Us comes from? Well, obviously it conveys that they're in the toy business, but any idea as to why those three words are combined in
US.
No.
This is an interesting one because I used to know a guy who didn't call it Toys R Us. He called it Toysaurus.
Ah.
And like dinosaur
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
In that sort of thing. And I went, what? He went, Toys R Us. And I went, it's Toys R Us. He went, no, it's Toys R Us. And I went, it's not. It's fucking Toys R Us.
Right.
And we just left it.
Then.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's it. That's where it came from.
Got to be. It sounds very plausible. If someone was calling it that.
It's going to be that or something to do with US.
Yeah.
Like Toys of USA or...
What was the R? It's the R bit, isn't it? R that's turned round.
Yeah, that's right.
But I wonder if it is like a dinosaur sort of reference of Toysaurus. That's how he used to say it. It sounds so wrong.
It makes sense, though.
It does make sense.
It does. But it sounds wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I could never come to that way of thinking. The
No,
way
it's Toys R Us.
Toys R Us, yeah.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
the song said Toys R Us,
Toys R
didn't
Us,
it?
Toys R Us, Toys R Us, Toys R
Yeah,
Us.
that's what I remember about
Yeah.
it, about the adverts.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see.
such a strange way? And why it uses the letter R? Well, let me repeat the founder's name. Charles Lazarus. Did I just blow your mind? Another fun fact. Any guesses as to why the R is backwards? Well, Charles Lazarus was a big fan of the band Korn. Okay, one of those two facts was true and the other was a lame joke. You decide which is which. A few years later, Jeffrey the Giraffe was created as the company's mascot. He was originally named Dr. G. Raff, so I'm sure you can understand why they renamed him.
I don't like the doctor bit, but I do like Giraffe.
Giraffe,
Yeah.
Don't get it.
1978, Toys R Us went public, meaning anyone could become a partial owner through the purchase of some stock. 5 years later, they made a logical expansion with the creation of Kids R Us, a clothing store for kids. I actually don't care for this name as much because the name Toys R Us identifies what they sell, whereas Kids R Us identifies their target customer. But kids are also the target customer for Toys R Us. My vote would have been to name it Clothes R Us, since people recognize the R Us part as targeting kids, the clothes part lets you know what they sell, and it follows the same naming format established by Toys R Us.
Clothes R Us sounds shit though, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not got a ring to it, has it, at all?
I'm not into buying anything from somewhere that says something like that. I mean, Toys R Us is different because you're going to buy toys. A big toy store, wasn't it? A little bit different.
Yeah.
When you're going like Kids R Us or Clothes R Us or...
It sounds cheap, doesn't it?
Something bargain. Before children's bargain furniture, I'd stay fucking clear away from anything that says bargain.
Yeah. I bought one of Oscar's prams from Kids R Us towards the end because it would have been around.
I've never even seen a Kids R Us.
Used to be one here, didn't they?
Yeah. There was a Toys R Us.
There was a Toys R Us, remember that? I don't remember a Kids R Us anywhere.
Usually in the same... It was like that.
Right.
So like in the same retail shop.
Yeah.
One half would be toys, one half would be kids.
I think the thing that's going to have killed it is if you look what's there now, it's a bargain store, and that's like quite premium. A lot of the stuff in Toys R Us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's been replaced with really cheap.
It's weird though because when that went,
stuff.
I thought, well, there's no other kids' toy shops anywhere. I couldn't at the time. I couldn't think of any. There wasn't any around here, though, was there?
Trafford Centre.
Is it?
It's kind of more teddy bears and stuff that though, isn't it? It's not like
it's Toy Store.
Is it? I think they branch out into technology though as well, Toys R Us, and start selling laptops and things. And I feel like there was an issue with
but I mean,
that.
these were absolutely everywhere. They weren't the one that you said. I mean, they might have one in Trafford Centre, but I mean, these were sort of like every retail park pretty much had one, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I suppose most company names don't describe what they sell anyway, so I'm sure there were other factors responsible for its demise in 2003. But I can't get into them right now. This video is about Toys R Us, not Kids R Us. I've already spent too much time on Kids R Us. 1996 marked the beginning of Babies R Us, which despite having the same naming issues as Kids R Us, still stands today. In 2005, the company was taken off the stock market and transformed into a private company when it was purchased in a leveraged buyout. And in September of 2017, Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy. This is a company that began 60 years ago with roots going even further back. A company that became the standard for toys. Anytime within the last 30 years, including today, if Family Feud were to survey 100 people and ask them to name a toy store, the number one answer on the board would be Toys R Us. And as of this week, this company has filed for bankruptcy. So, how on earth did this happen? The short answer is that they have too much debt. But that's a no-brainer. Of course they have too much debt. Why else would they file for bankruptcy? So then in my mind, the real question becomes, how did they get so much debt? So let's try to figure out this one together, Dora the Explorer style. Here's a graph that shows their long-term debt over the past 14 years.
Is that when they went public?
Or 2005 was when the buyout got bought out.
Right, okay. So do you think there's been some element of asset stripping from the shareholders?
No, because they've borrowed, haven't they? So they've got the debt. The debt's gone right up. But when you look at, doesn't say that's in millions in it. So you're talking 6 billion in it, close to 6 billion in 2008. But it's steady. It's dropping, but it's not dropped obviously to 2005 levels.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show what it was pre-2000 neither.
When did they say it went public? Was it
2005?
So it
was a buyout in 2005.
Yeah, that was a buyout, but then previously it had gone public. Was that in the 90s or something?
Probably 96, I'm guessing. But it's it's declining the debt by quite a lot. But that's long-term debt as well. So
yeah,
still a huge amount, isn't it?
Yeah, but when you've got assets and reserves probably, and it probably doesn't show how much money, if they're losing or making money here though.
Usually companies that size can sort of service the debt, can't they? Even though it's a big debt, they're a big company to service it.
So which year do you think we should further investigate to try to find out where all this debt came from?
2008.
Well, it certainly appears that something happened between 2005 and 2006. And I actually already told you what it was. In 2005, the company went private through a leveraged buyout. A leveraged buyout is when you buy a company using a bunch of debt. I can best explain it through an example. Say I wanted to buy Toys R Us. The selling price is $10 million, but I only have $1 million. So I go to the bank and try to get a loan for the remaining $9 million. But it turns out I need a pretty good collateral in order to take out a $9 million loan. So I think a minute about what I have that's of any value. My car probably won't cover it. Oh, I know. How about Toys R Us? If I get the loan, I'll own Toys R Us, and that can be my collateral. So I get the loan, and now I have two things. I own Toys R Us, but I also have $9 million in debt. But really, Toys R Us has $9 million in debt. This is an incredibly simplified version of what happened in 2005, but it didn't cost $10 million. It cost $6.6 billion, most of which was paid for through loans that went right on the balance sheet of Toys R Us. So that explains the huge debt increase.
Seems almost criminal, doesn't it, buying a company with its own...
Everyone does it.
Worth. I know that's what people do. I know it's what Elon Musk did to an extent with Twitter, isn't it?
It's what United owners did as well, didn't they?
Exactly the same thing.
It seems
exactly
like
the same thing.
Long-term strategy-wise, though, you look at the debt increase there that probably led to the company failing.
Well, what you've got is hedging, isn't it, as well? Because when you look at, you look at the biggest debt there is 2008. So it's gone up what would that be? 300 million.
Yeah,
I guess. And then when you look at what someone might come up and say 2008 is going to be the year of the Furby, for example. So they know they've got this fucking massive product that they can launch, which is going to bring you in $6 billion worth of sales. Obviously, that's just on one product.
Yeah.
So you might think we can smash this. That long-term debt will be serviced, which it has been. It's been serviced and reduced over the 10-year period. So it's not been that bad. It's a lot of money, but it's not been that bad.
Yeah,
it's just when you see that sharp increase, it looks quite scary, doesn't it? But
that's when the buyout was. But what you've got, he's borrowed the money, whoever it is, borrowed the money to service this. But when you need to see the balance sheets, if the line on that blue line on the balance sheet is down at like for operating income, he's down at the 100 million.
They're screwed.
You're fucked. Yeah. That's why they know more.
Yeah. So the operating sort of value could have been like 10 billion a year.
Yeah.
So they've got 6 billion debt, and they're just going, it's fine. It's like
you pay
10 billion worth.
You're paying like, I don't know what they're paying off there. It looks like 100 million a year sort of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you're going to think things like you're servicing your debt, it's reducing.
It's plateaued towards the end, so maybe that's they couldn't meet the minimum payments for whatever the debt was, and it's just
last 3 years is 4.6 million, 4.6 billion.
Maybe that's what's gone wrong.
I don't know whether they own the assets, whether they own the buildings, or don't know anything like that.
Yeah,
that's why people like McDonald's are so smart in owning all the property.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, they just sell up all the property and it's
make
hundreds of billions.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, I'm sure you're saying, well, that sounds risky. And you're completely right. Think of it as taking out a mortgage to buy a house. Once you do that, you better have a reliable source of income, because as soon as the cash flow stops, you're liable to lose your home. Same with Toys R Us. As long as the cash flow situation is fine, there's no worries. But once it slows down, well, here we are. This is from the website Investopedia. Leveraged buyouts have had a notorious history, especially in the 1980s, when several prominent buyouts led to the eventual bankruptcy of the acquired companies. This was mainly due to the fact that the leverage ratio was nearly 100% and the interest payments were so large that the company's operating cash flows were unable to meet the obligation. I think this reinforces what I just said. And just in case you need more proof, here it is from Toys R Us themselves in their annual report from a few years back. Our substantial indebtedness could have important consequences, including making it more difficult for us to make payments on the debt as our business may not be able to generate sufficient cash flows from operating activities to meet our debt service obligations. Here's my point. When that leveraged buyout occurred 12 years ago, it was well known that one of the big risks of doing it was potential bankruptcy. I know as outsiders this crept up on all of us, but for anyone on the inside or anyone following their financial condition over the years, this was no surprise. To continue with my analogy, Toys R Us has taken a pay cut and are now having trouble making their mortgage payments. But now we have a second question on the table. Why aren't they able to make their payments? If everything went according to plan, there would be no trouble right now. So
did interest rates go up with the financial crash?
Yeah.
That could have been a big factor, I suppose.
Because that was 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, just all suddenly the payments double overnight or whatever.
You're not getting the full story here, though, are we yet?
Not yet, no.
We're in the end of the video.
And this is speculation as well, he said, because it's the week of it going filing for
that's
bankruptcy.
right,
isn't it?
So why aren't they generating enough money? This is where our minds always jump straight to blaming the internet. And I can't disagree with that. It's happening everywhere. But in defense of Toys R Us, they do seemingly have a healthy internet presence. On their website, they talk about how they launched ToysRUs.com almost 20 years ago and how it became one of the fastest growing sites in the toy and baby product shopping categories. And that ToysRUs.com is one of the most visited sites in their category. And I see no evidence against these claims. Also, in 2007, they acquired eToys.com and Toys.com, which further strengthened their online presence. I know Amazon is darn near impossible to compete with, but as far as I can tell, Toys R Us hasn't exactly been ignoring their online component of their business. Another thing to point to are stores like Walmart and Target that offer similar, if not the same toy products at lower prices. Not to mention the convenience of picking them up during your routine shopping trips. Maybe it's just because I'm older now, but Toys R Us doesn't seem to have the same weight it once had. Meaning, before it felt like the place to go for toys, and now I see it as the expensive place to go for toys. Something that I'm inclined to blame for all of this is the decline of toy popularity in general. Just think about it. Kids aren't spending the better part of their day playing with toy trucks and
I was going to say this before.
PlayStations.
That's a good point. Isn't it? Electronic games and that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, isn't it? And it's a good point as well about being in supermarkets like we do over here, don't we? You know, Asda, Tesco's, they all sell stuff like
the
that.
convenience factor of anything now. When you look at all parents now, parents can't be arsed going around and even the shop in the high street. Very rarely you see like a family shopping on the high street. Very rare.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to shop for with your family.
Not really.
If I need stuff, I wait till I've not got the kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm in and out.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
out.
what you want, is it? Yeah.
But that's only
In
for
and
like more thing now is gross. But even now, I see like sometimes outside our apartment block, there's sometimes 3 or 4 vans parked outside making deliveries of like Asda or whatever the other shops are.
Sainsbury's,
Tesco's, they're all lined up.
You know, you're saying there's not a dedicated toy shop that you can think of. The Entertainer. That's in Old Sea. It's in Northwich. They're smaller, but I class them as the expensive toy shop.
Yeah, it's not something I'd shop for these days. Anyway, the kids are growing up now, so it's very rare that I've got to look for something.
And if they do, Amazon.
There's one here and there's one in Northwich, and I didn't go in either when I was Christmas shopping for the kids because I just see it as expensive.
Yeah,
which I guess is what people were seeing Toys R Us like.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I think Toys R Us was the go-to shop, but I think this is hitting the nail on the head here when they're saying kids, they're not really, even now for small children, you're buying electronic stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm talking, when I say small children, I'm talking this age group, your 2s, 3s.
Absolutely,
you're buying iPads or them kids' iPads or whatever these
phones, you know, anything like that, PlayStation,
Xbox.
A lot of the shit. Maybe people becoming more environmentally conscious as well, because a lot of that just plastic shit that everyone buys for your kids.
But your carbon footprint on electric games bigger than plastic shit you're buying, probably.
I get that, but over the lifespan of the toy, it probably evens out because a shitty plastic toy they play with 4 times and then it goes in the loft. Versus a PlayStation that they play for 3 years straight, or a tablet or whatever. You know, it's just I hate it when you get certain toys and you're like, they're not going to play with that. But there's an obligation, you know, when you buy stuff for kids, you at Christmas, you've got to buy stuff, haven't you?
I know what you're saying. We have a toy box at our house for my grandson. As soon as he comes, he just legs it to that toy box, opens and gets all his toys out and sits around playing with them.
Yeah.
But then he'll get his iPad, stand it up on the side and put something on his iPad that he wants to watch while he's playing with his toys.
Oh, really?
Build a stand with his Lego first and put his iPad on top of it.
So they are still there, but I'm not sure on this. We're not getting a full picture, are we?
Yeah.
But I think this hits the nail on the head, though.
Yo-yos, it's all about technology. Video games are awesome today. It's no longer Pong and Dig Dug, it's Breath of the Wild and GTA 5. Games that could be played for weeks or months before getting tired of them. I defy you to play Pong for any longer than a few minutes. And of course the apps and games on the phone. Why spend a ton of money on Legos when most apps are free? The bottom line is that Toys R Us isn't doing great, but they're also not doing terrible. Sure, they have their troubles selling toys, and trust me, the troubles were there long before the leveraged buyout. But it was the debt that resulted from the buyout that amplified everything. Back to the analogy. You took a pay cut. Yes, that's bad news, but the fact that you have the mortgage payments to keep up with is what makes it devastating. As for the future of Toys R Us, it's hard to predict anything with much accuracy when they're in the middle of a bankruptcy, but my guess is that they'll stick around. It is the type of bankruptcy where you restructure your debts and stay in business. And as far as I can tell, if this debt is managed a little, maybe they could have some freedom to improve upon their faults and become more competitive. Maybe work on ways to lower prices, create a more fun environment for kids, whatever it takes. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this. I identified a few reasons as why they're struggling with their sales, but I'm sure there's many more. If you have any theories, I'd like to hear them. And just an aside, there were so many interesting things about Toys R Us as far as their history and their evolution that I elected to exclude from this video. So if you think I neglected to mention something, I'm sure you're right. Maybe when Toys R Us either makes a recovery or fails altogether, I'll make a new video about it and have a place to include it all. But for now, go to that comment section and let me know your thoughts about everything that's going on.
He's great at getting people to comment for the algorithm, and he asks every video loads of questions at the end.
He's right. They never recovered, or not that I'm aware of. Not over here anyway. Certainly not in certain countries that I've been to where they're very prominent.
I wonder if they've still got an online presence. Because I know Woolworths do, don't they?
They miss it if they're not having toysr.us.
Yeah.
Someone will have it.
HMV as well have still got an online presence.
Oh, right, okay. HMV's aren't they still in the Trafford Centre as well, with a shop?
toysrus.co.uk straight away. So they are online. Oh, a toy store in Wigan.
Yeah, it's probably not the same Toys R Us.
I know people did that with Woolworths, didn't they? Communities got together and reopened it.
Yeah. But I think it's one of them where I don't think we get. Obviously, he alludes to that as well, saying we've not got the full story.
It's early days when he did the video.
You've also got Kids R Us and Babies R Us, what's happened to them?
I think did he say Babies R Us are still going or something?
I think he said Kids R Us went out of business, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that did. But I think Babies R Us, I think it's still going.
I think for a company of that size with $6.5 billion in debt, with that sort of stature across the globe, with franchises, whatever they had. It just seems too big just to not be able to reorganise.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you think somebody should be able to come and say, like, let's do this instead. But he's still got the big, huge debt, haven't you?
Just seems to fall off the edge of a cliff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the way to get rid of some of that debt is to sell off parcels of it, isn't it? And then all of the Babies R Us stores become the entertainer that's in Alti. Someone buys that without the debt, that goes off to pay some of it.
Yeah, that might be your main source of income, though. So you have to be careful what you're selling off.
Yeah, it's got to be.
You don't have a $4 billion debt with nothing, all your shit left over.
So you sell everything off, but then you still got huge debt. Then you still got huge debt, haven't you? So
It's usually an analogy what he's saying. You're selling off your house, but you end up with just a garage.
Yeah,
and you're like,
what's the point? Sort of thing. Yeah.
But if you can't pay your mortgage, the bank do just take the house, which is probably your only way to pay for the house. Yeah, isn't it? That's your biggest asset.
I mean, it's so well known. You think there would have been a way around it because it is.
Or someone would have come in and took over it.
Well, yeah, you think so, wouldn't
Would
it?
have been acquisition.
If the online presence is doing well, then maybe it is just shut all the stores, completely cut overheads, and just become a warehousing business.
I think when you
just
look,
service.
you look at the days of like the high street now, you only have to look around what we've got around here. There's not that many shops where people, it's old people.
Yeah,
something to do.
It's dead.
They're just walking up and down the high street, just
coffee shops, charity shops, and bargain shops,
and barbers,
and hair salons,
tanning salons, things like that, where you need to physically go. You can. I mean, barbers can come around to the house, but they don't. It's easy for them just to sort of, and hairdressers as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's where like dog grooming, all that kind of stuff. But the actual days of going in and having rows and rows of clothing and all that, I think they're dying out big time.
Yeah, I think it's been on decline for a long time, really, hasn't it? But
I think you've got to have everything under one roof.
Everyone's got to be, like you say. I shop online for 90% of my stuff.
Yeah,
Wilko does well, and that sells everything. That is like a Woolworths, isn't it?
It is really. Yeah, it's very, very, very much like it, really.
Yeah, and you go to Tesco and you do your shopping now, and get all of your. You can get your clothes, you can get all your weekly shop, you can buy toys, and you can get a pasty from Greg's on your way out as well. And it's literally everything.
Find the queues of fucking weirdos in there as well, and putting trolleys around aimlessly walking at 1 mile an hour.
But if you're trying to get Christmas presents and you're there for food anyway, you can walk around.
I won't be in Tesco shopping for Christmas present. I guarantee you.
I got a few.
Won't be anywhere shopping for Christmas presents.
I got a few from Asda this year while I was in there. Just walk down the kids aisle and just pick a few things up.
Yeah,
mainly stocking fillers, nothing exciting.
Straight online, me. That. Boom, delivered here. Emptied the box here, straight in the cardboard bin, wrapped it, gone. Didn't even see anything.
I was wrapping at midnight on Christmas Eve. I was so shit at wrapping. I was putting it off and putting it off, and then I was like, I'm gonna have to do it.
It's got to be done.
I do, mate. Just got one of the massive sacks and just put everything in them. And there you go, one for you, one for you.
Done.
Yeah,
it's a good sharp.
Yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Guys.